Hi there, welcome to the video. So a day or two ago, it was brought to my attention by a viewer that there was some breaking news in Utah that some human skeletal remains were found. As for the location, unknown. But just recently, shout out to Robert in the background, gave the location. I checked online, it does confirm the area and what's been found, human remains. We're going to take a look at the article first, and then go on Google Earth satellite imagery to put it into perspective. Because there are a couple of people here and there hinting and only hinting at the possibility if it has anything to do with the Dylan Rounds missing person case. Because as we know, Dylan Rounds has been missing for over 2 years now and has not been found. And it's presumed that Brenner, because he's been charged with desecration of human remains, was the one responsible for disposing of Dylan. Could this be, the finding after all this time? Well, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's look at the article and then we'll go from there, okay? So here is the article. Now, there were a couple that could have been read out, but unfortunately, due to location, access was denied. That's unfortunate. There was another article in which you had to pay $150 monthly or yearly to be able to access it. What a complete rip-off. But thankfully, Fox 13 Now has provided the article here. It reads, the title, Human Remains Found in a Remote Wetland Area of Northern Utah. Box Elder County, Utah. Investigators are working to identify a set of human remains found in a wetland area of northern Utah on Saturday. So for it to say Box Elder County, we're quite familiar with them because they worked on the Dylan Rounds case and we know how that went, not too great. So I wonder if they're acting more efficiently here, I wonder. Now it says identify a set of human remains. I'm assuming it all links to just one individual, one skeletal remains, but bits and pieces. That's what I'm assuming. Take in mind, in the past, there was another occasion, and I think it was in 2023, when Jim Terry, Bob Farrell did a live stream together and really hyped it up at the possibilities it was Dylan Rounds. As for context, it was some kind of lake, I believe, or salt lake within Utah, and 16, 17-year-olds, two guys in a boat, and just so happened to accidentally come across some skeletal remains. But as for the aging of it, could date back quite some time. Ancient, maybe not, but it was not linked to Dylan Rounds. Okay, so it's just putting things into perspective. There have been bodies found before in Utah. Not everything will revolve around Dylan, but it's always worth taking it into consideration because you never know what will come next. But let's just read on. The Box Elder County Sheriff's Office said it received a report around 10:45 a.m. in the morning of skeletal remains found within the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. The remains were found in a remote area on the northwest side of Willard Bay, according to officials. So, it's given the name of the location. We'll definitely look that up on the satellite imagery. I guess the most interesting thing about this is, unrelated, but in the past, we did look at Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge and we actually looked at photos on ground level. So we were looking in an area where maybe at the time human remains were, but unknown to most of us. That's a possibility. It depends how far it dates back to, of course. Right. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service joined the sheriff's office in responding to the area where they confirmed that the remains belonged to a human, one individual. Again, the Utah State Medical Examiner's Office and Weber Metro Crime Scene Investigation Team also responded to help process the scene and collect evidence. The remains are being sent to the State Medical Examiner's Office, which will work to determine the deceased person's identity. Officials said they have no further information at this time. And there's a photo there. Now, yes, it may look kind of shallow there, but maybe further on it's a bit deeper. You can always bury bodies too. Now, there's no autopsy yet, of course, so cause of death is unknown. Was it buried there? Was it a form of desecration or something accidental? The person got injured, succumbed to the environment. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out with time. But we need to look at the area on the maps to understand the distance from there to the scene of the crime of when Dylan Rounds, let's just say, was taken out by Brenner on the 28th of May 2022. Is there a link? The only thing that I will say as a possibility, and that is all, before looking at the location, I just want to say, it goes on about the US Fish and Wildlife Service joined the Sheriff's Office in responding to the area. My question is, the area, this, what was it called? Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. Can you go fishing in this area? Yes or no? Are there fish available? And is it legal to do so? If yes ticks most of those boxes, you could put that rough argument across and say that the day after Dylan's death, on the 29th of May 2022, that story supposedly in the background that Don Hatley and James Brenner, the main guy responsible for Dylan's death and charged too, at a later point, that those two guys went on a fishing expedition, went on a fishing trip, but where exactly, it was unknown of. Could this be the location of where they went and where they actually disposed of Dylan's body? Was the fishing trip a cover-up in disposing of someone, such as Dylan Rounds? I've brought it up in the past. Does it apply here? I want to know your thoughts down below in the comments section. But right now, without further ado, let's get onto the satellite imagery and check this location out. So here we are on the maps. As you can see, in the middle of the screen it reads Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge, and that's where the remains supposedly were found, but it did say Willard Bay, and I believe that might be lower down. We'll have to search in a second. I'm not too sure if it will show up in text. Let me just double check. Willard Bay, way down here, right? But I'm assuming it connects all together as the water runs through, because you've got a reservoir there, and sometimes bodies can end up in reservoirs. Not exactly ideal, I know, but supposedly down here, lower down here, where the body was found, you can see the water. Is it away from, people, buildings? Yeah, pretty much like outer skirts. I mean, over that way you got Brigham City, and that's come up in the Dylan Rounds case, like with the court appearances with Brenner, the early stages. Box Elder Peak. We just zoom out a little bit more. Okay, so it's kind of, what would you say, northwest of Ogden, right? Yeah, like northwest of Ogden, Willard Bay. So it's on the outer skirts of, the city down there. So there's a bit of, you know why I question this? Because if it was in a populated area, let's just say, and there was a lot of crowds and surveillance, I don't think Brenner and Don Hatley would visit here of all places, right? But considering it's a bit further out, there is that possibility, right? We can measure the distance right now from Willard Bay specifically, because if we was to look at the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge, it appears to be a centre where you can park up, I guess like a tourist area. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've got the parking area, I guess you can walk about, and then you've got a bit of a river here. And I guess if you follow that, I wonder if that will go all the way down to the reservoir. I'm not too sure, to be honest. It could do, because look, Willard Bay in the distance, the water runs down possibly, connects on to here. Yeah, but there is a bit of distance between the two spots, but it did say Willard Bay, and Willard Bay is down there. If they said the body was found here, then I'd probably be less likely to believe in it because of the possible CCTV surveillance, cameras, right? Now, take in mind, I'm covering this as breaking news because it is in general, but I'm also applying it to the Dylan Rounds case. If you wonder why I'm putting the spin on if there was possible foul play, there can be possible foul play outside of the Dylan Rounds case with another missing person, right? Within the Dylan Rounds case, there is proof of foul play, and that's what's been presumed and reinforce with time, right? So I'm trying to combine the two together to put things into perspective in case anyone's wondering, okay? So distance between Bear River Migratory Refuge and the Willard Bay. I'll try and do that if it will allow me. Just give me a second. There we go. It's because if you click on it, it will... Is it in miles? I think it is in miles. Now, I'm not going to do it in perfection, just like... Right, so it gets rid of the marker, which is really annoying. I do hate it when it does that. Where do we say Willard Bay was? You know what? Screw it. I'll do it the other way around. It's easier to track. Yeah, we'll do it from there. Get rid of Willard Bay, measure about there. And the name should come up, shouldn't it? Yeah. Like 10 miles distance between the parking centre of the Bird Refuge Centre. 10 miles between there and Willard Bay where the body was found. Okay. And basically like 10 miles from Brigham City as well. What about from there to Ogden? About 15 miles. There's Salt Lake. Salt Lake City is about 45 miles distance. From Willard Bay to Lucin, Utah is about 90 miles, give and take, distance and routes taken, because this is straight across, it's not on an actual road. So it'll be over 90 miles. Montello, over 105 miles. Fair bit of distance. If you was to be disposing of a body and you were to cover that distance, you would obviously be transporting the body and committing to the desecration over a long distance in a vehicle to actually get from point A to point B. You wouldn't be walking, not at all, via a vehicle only, a form of transportation. Your own vehicle or somebody you trust, okay? So with the Dylan Rounds case, Brenner, maybe Don Hatley assisting, you never know, on the 28th or 29th, a possible fishing day expedition, but actually something else, going from Lucin all the way to Willard Bay. Does anyone think that? Anything that's a possibility at all? Covering over 90 to 100 miles from Lucin, Utah to Willard Bay. I want to know your thoughts down below. As I said, there's not enough details at this moment in time, so we can only work with what we've got. If we was to look at the photos, I mean, is there any example ones? Has anyone uploaded any? It doesn't seem to be the case. You've got a bit of the reservoir. Yeah. It's weird that. Does it at no street view? Yeah, so it's been a bit glitchy, as usual. Do we have any of the bird centre? Yeah, there's some, but it looks like it's a track. Obviously, this is further away, but just get an idea of what the area looks like. Pathway, visitors come and go. Look at the nature around. It's, pretty open. Yeah. But we don't need to look there. What we do need to look at is Willard Bay. Let's just look at some photos. Can you go fishing? It looks like there could be someone down there fishing. By the way, Willard Bay, it gives like a rough collection of photos which users have uploaded within the area roughly, right? So it may not match what we've seen in that news article, okay? It doesn't seem to at all. So after looking at some of those photos on ground level, I can arguably say with certainty and confidence it's the most unrelating, pointless images I've seen. Photos of a battleship and a bloody military plane. That's got nothing to do with this area directly or about this situation and news. So I just scrapped that idea because it was a load of BS. So we'll just have to look at it like this, okay? Obviously not much we can go off from at this moment, but as you see, you get an idea of what it looks like, the spots, the location. I don't know about the accessibility of it, to be honest, right? But Willard Bay. within this area roughly, skeletal remains found. Who by exactly? It didn't say. But attention was brought at 10:45 a.m. in the morning, not that long ago. So, could it be a person down here exploring at some point in the past and somehow they managed to drown? Or were they taken out, killed here? Or were they taken out by someone elsewhere and disposed of in this area? Due to the distance from the, let's say, the Dylan Rounds case, the scene of the crime at the grain shed loose in Utah, you compare that to here, it does seem like quite a distance going out of your way to dispose of a person, right? Personally, you know what I would say? In the Dylan Rounds case, if you're going to dispose of someone and you're already in a desolate area, you're probably in the right place to begin with. If you cover a fair bit of distance out there in the desert area and pick a spot, you might just do okay. And I guess with Brenner, he's been able to do that. Whereas coming over here, you are getting closer to civilization, technically speaking. It might still be a bit open and quiet, but there's more chances of visitors, roughly in general, visiting this area compared to the likes of Loose in Utah. So I don't think there is a link to Dylan Rounds here. But if we're talking about fishing, if that's true, if it is possible in a place like this, I'm not an expert, okay? If anyone can confirm, it'll be appreciated. And if the story on the 29th of May 2022 with Don Hatley and Brenner going fishing, it's understandable how you could link one thing with another as a potential cover-up to covering up Dylan's body, right? With time and news coming out, hopefully with updates, we might come to a conclusion of this separate breaking news. Okay? Now, the only other thing that we can do, if we can link it back to what I previously came across, the not Willard Bay, but the does it come up? Most recent searches. Is it that one? There we go. If we look at these photos here, there might be more relating to the area in general, because the other one, Willard Bay, was coming up with military-related stuff. But, some of these images are a bit more comparable, like this one, something like that. Almost, well, it appears to be low water levels. It could be a bit boggy in areas, soggy, saturated. But this is kind of like roughly what it looked like from the news article of where you saw where it would be search and rescue box elder going into the water, collecting the body, the remains, right? You got the birds as well, it being the refuge. Some more photos there. There we go, some more vegetation. And obviously, we're in an area where there's water, there can be a form of concealment, but in addition, with that concealment comes more obstacles, right? You're burying someone in the ground or dumping someone in water, let's just say, if it is foul play. You got to weight the body down so it doesn't float back up to the top surface. Because, if it did, it would be noticeable. People would see it. There we go. But in some of these areas, it does look fairly shallow. So is there a possibility that a body was buried in the ground under that water? But surely that would be difficult, right? Especially if you're digging into water to create a hole, because each time you create almost like a little well, it fills up with water. Do we have any more images? No, that appears to be it. It's been a bit dodgy. Oh, okay then. So my conclusion to this at this moment in time, probably not related to Dylan Rounds due to the location. It's closer to civilization compared to Loose in Utah, where it's more desolate, and it's easier to remain undetected over there if you were to do illegal things. Let's just put it that way. And as well, probably the distance too. Would someone like Brenner really go that far to dispose of a body but be so reckless and lazy with other evidence? You thought it would be roughly within the area of where all the things occurred. So this could well be, this breaking news, a completely separate case. Nevertheless, there could still be foul play involved, and it could be a mystery of itself. Of course, if there are updates in the future, or if people do hear updates, maybe we can do some coverage, whether it be debunking, reinforcing. We'll see what happens. but at this moment in time, I don't believe that this links to the Dylan Rounds case, okay? So thanks for watching, see you next time, goodbye, good night.